My abduction occurred when I was between 3 and 4 years old. I'm not totally clear if it was 3 or 4. But what I remember was that I was kind of sleeping. It was a dark night, full moon.
So the first experience I had with a UFO or unidentified object, I was about 10 years old. I was in overnight camp in the Poconos, and I woke up one night. I heard a lot of voices outside of our cabin. And when I came outside, the counselors were all outside and they were all pointing up into the sky.
And suddenly it became extremely bright in the room. And that brightness woke me up.
And up into the sky was what really looked a lot like a flying saucer hovering over the camp. And obviously it had been out there for a while because there were a lot of people out there looking up at it.
I felt that my body was just moving away from this room. And suddenly I woke up in a greenish place. Everything was so green.
And right after I came off, it just shot off into the distance and disappeared.
I was surrounded by this type of human beings that had like a light around them.
That was the first time I had a experience with an unidentified object.
And they began to talk to me in a language that I was able to understand and at the same time not. So I was extremely puzzled.
If they exist, would they have visited us? And all our theory in physics at this point indicates that it would be impossible to traverse the distances that are involved and arrive here alive.
Immediately I said, well, yes, I was taken by UFO. Yes, there were aliens from the reality we live in. And that place was not just bright, but it was so clean and greenish that I said to myself, is this a dream or this is reality? So I touched my body to see if it was just something I was just imagining because I was 3 years old.
I think people who claim to have been abducted by aliens basically have the same kind of experience as in the olden days, people who claim to have been possessed by ghosts, people who claim to have been possessed by the Holy Spirit. I think clearly our brains are capable of putting us into mental states that we then confuse with reality out there, whereas what really is going on is just something internal to our own nervous system.
Well, I think it's not a good idea to speak in absolutes. There's a lot of things that happen in the world that we may not understand, and Dr. Cibrani is being very autocratic in deciding that everybody is just making this up.
Could be due to many factors. It could be if someone is very tired. It could be due to certain foods they consumed that influences our consciousness. I mean, it's well known that in Mexico people consume certain mushrooms that gives them experiences of meeting gods and being one with the universe. And these people truly feel that that is what they really experienced.
Dr. Cibrani says that if it's not proven scientifically and you don't have any objective proof, it's not a true experience. You may have had an hallucination or a religious experience, or maybe you were taking some Mexican mushrooms. First of all, I'm not Mexican, and I have not been into the Mexican desert to taste mushrooms or peyote or any of the hallucinogenics that people use to have other types of experiences.
And ultimately, of course, it's for ourselves very hard to decide what is an internal experience and what is actually correlated with what happens in the external world.
I'm in excellent health. I exercise every day. I don't drink. I don't take drugs.
The second time, I walked outside along the driveway towards the house, and there was suddenly a light shining down into the yard, a very bright light that illuminated a large portion of the yard. And we looked up, and it was hard to see what was shining the light down on us, but it was something hovering over the property, and the light was shining directly down right onto our car and where we were standing. And it just kind of went straight up into the sky and disappeared. And the thing about both of these is you could have thought they might have been a traditional airplane or a helicopter, but there was no sound. Both of these vehicles were absolutely silent.
So almost 5 years ago, I was just doing my exercises in the woods. I was jogging, and it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was not dark. It was springtime. And in the middle of the woods, things became so bright. I got scared, and that just made me recall my experience when I was 3 years old. And I said, wait a second, this cannot happen 2 times. And suddenly, this bright light just came around me, and suddenly it was in another place.
That's one reason that scientists always try to research and re-research any claims that a particular scientist makes, so that we can exclude that personal element from this research. And I think that that's why scientists as such have never found any proof of extraterrestrial abductions.
The place where I was taken is like a parallel place to this planet. It's not I flew for hours or seconds. I think that it would be very important that we take a walk in the same woods where I was abducted. That I can prove that I was abducted there, it's going to be hard to prove.
Some people have claimed to have found physical evidence of UFO landings. I don't find this evidence particularly convincing. Very often when the scientists show up to observe the evidence, for one reason or another, it is claimed that the evidence has disappeared.
It will be a pleasure for me to meet Dr. Brandy and talk about not just my experience, but also his lack of knowledge of what he's saying. Of course, he based his argument in, quote, scientific positive science, that things if are not proven scientifically and objectively, they don't exist.
There's also people who claim to have specific memories of seeing aliens, of even being abducted by aliens. Again, the problem there is that they're always very personal memories, and for some reason there is never any physical evidence to correlate with this personal experience.
One of the things I want to make clear to the viewer is that my story may be contradictory in so many instances, and it can change day by day. It doesn't change. The only thing I know, I was taken from this physical reality to another place. Maybe one day I may think that I was taken in a spaceship that flew beyond the speed of light.
As they say in science, when you make extraordinary claims, you need extraordinary proof, and so far the proof has been lacking.
Certainly it makes sense. There's precedent for this type of behavior with other animals that are known to react to natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, long before they happen. So obviously animals are in some visceral way much more sensitive to those types of things than we are. But it's certainly not something I've ever had known about any strong documentation for it or seen it myself.
Well, to add to my friend's comments,
if I met Dr. Drukovka right here, right now, I would be curious to hear from him as to what his experience exactly was.
Ivan, I understand you're going to be going out with Dr. Brandy to show him and where these events took place and to try to deal with his skepticism?
Well, it would be a good idea that he comes with me, even though there's not any physical proof that it happened.
Right.
So it's a situation of my experience versus his non-believing. I'm not there. I'm not going there to make him believe this
Right.
is what happened.
I would love to see his reaction to this, though. I really would. I think hopefully he'll have some enlightenment.
Well, let's hope that he will open a little bit more his intellect
Right.
to other possibilities of other realities, other ways of seeing what we don't see.
Mark, so Kristen, why don't you give him a call and tell him that we're waiting for him?
Well, I know this is the right place.
Yeah, and I'm looking here, and he's well over time. And I mean, we know that he sleeps till about 3 in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
but this is, even for Yvonne, this is pretty late.
yeah, this is really overdue.
Yes, who is it?
It's Justin.
Yes.
Hey, you ready to go?
You go where?
Where we're gonna shoot the. You have to show us where where the flying saucer landed.
Well, I have spoken with you that I'm not interested to do that anymore.
I know, but the flying saucer, we have to shoot that.
Do you have to?
Well, yeah, we need
But
to.
I have told you
I know,
that
but
I'm totally
people-
reluctant. Can we do that another day?
No, they. Dr. Sebrandi and Alan Ash are downstairs waiting. We need. To,
But how urgent that you need this to be done?
well, we need to do it now. It's for Maria's class.
Okay, let me think about it. So I was busy, but how
Well,
long is this going to take?
Well, you need to show us where the saucer is, where the flying saucer landed.
I thought that I explained the coordinates and where the
What do you mean the coordinate?
yes, in the map where it
You need
happened.
to take us there. We don't know where this thing is.
But you can go and just show it there.
I know,
without
but we
me.
need you. Arthur, Dr. Sebrandi, who you want to meet, is downstairs right now.
Ah, he's coming too.
He's coming too, yeah. And Alan Ash is here too.
Hey, doctor.
Hey,
I have heard a lot about you.
Yvonne, good
Hey,
to see you again.
nice to see you. How's everything?
I'm good. I'm good. A little walk in the park here.
So you're trying to figure out my story to see what's true or not?
Yeah, we thought we'd go and look a bit and see what's up.
In what way?
Well, you told us that story about you being abducted when you were 12, and then you talked a bit
No,
about
what I said was
later
that
abduction.
abduction.
Well, for 7 years,
Well, 8 years.
8 years.
Well-
that's an awful long time.
Well, you're a child, and time doesn't have the same meaning as an adult.
So time just kind of passes without
passes
you
and it-
being aware of it.
Yes, you were not aware what went on. You were just in a time of no recollection about anything.
And nobody noticed that you were missing for 7 or 8 years?
I was missing mentally. Physically, I was there.
Physically? you were.
Yes. So maybe when I stated I was absent for the 8 years, it was more a mental state of not being conscious where I was in the planet.
So your body was here?
My body was here, my mind was
But
not.
your mind was in the spaceship?
I don't know where I was.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened here when you were jogging? It was at this location, correct?
It was in this location. It was like 6 in the afternoon. I was jogging. It was summertime. There were not people, and I just came just to sit down, and I just was meditating. And around 7, it was getting dark. I saw this light coming from the water. I said, I may be hallucinating. I don't take drugs. I don't drink. And I said, well, what's going on? And finally, this device or unit or whatever we can call it came out. And suddenly, I just, in seconds, I was not anymore here. I was inside this spaceship or whatever you call it.
And then?
And then it's totally contradictory what my mind can say now.
And when did you come back this time? How long was that before your mind came back?
That was 1 hour.
Also considerably less than the first time.
Yes, because I was more conscious now about that my mind was not playing a trick on me.
So why do you think it was just an hour this time and 8 years the previous time?
And you don't, so you say that the first time you don't remember your 10th birthday?
No,
or anything that happened?
Ah, no, no,
between
no,
the
no.
time
You
were
got to
4
explain.
years
No,
old and you were
I can
12?
remember things happening with my family, of course. But I'm saying to have the conscience of what that meant. I didn't have that.
Interesting.
It's like being in coma and not being in coma. Even though I went to school and everything, but the conscience of what happened mentally, I don't know. Suddenly you woke up and said, where am I?
Did you feel any mental effects the second time in that hour, or did you just come back and you
No,
were
I
back
came
to
back
normal?
and I said, what happened?
Interesting, interesting. So completely different experience. than the
Different
first time.
experience, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was abducted. I was examined. But more than the examination was a concern that these beings, we can call them beings, had for our planet. So if I learned something about abduction, was first that we're not alone in the planet, that the other beings concerned of what's going on in this solar system, specifically with our planet Earth. I feel like an alien because we live in a planet that people don't have any concerns for the environment, for human rights, and social welfare of its population. Politicians just lie, and most of humanity just is concerned about their own selves. They don't recycle. Governments don't have plans of recycling, and consumption is rampant. That's why I feel like I'm an alien. That I don't belong to a planet that is self-destructing itself. When I use the expression that I'm an alien doesn't mean that I came from another planet. I'm alien to the surroundings of the people that live in the planet. So I'm different? No, I have the same basic organs of every human being. To say that from another planet, I will die. I have my time limited here. My body will decompose and I will be gone. I don't think I was special or the only person in this planet that has been abducted by aliens. And more than the message, it was more a concern how our beings don't have any conscience of what's going on in the long, long run, of what's going to happen to life in this planet, and it will affect eventually the solar system and the universe. It doesn't matter. We are doomed for destruction because look at the planet. You don't have to be blind that we're destroying this planet. Did I have to learn that through these beings? No, but they were more clear about what was the path that we were going on. If someone else has the same experience that I had, I will advise them just to be quiet about it. Because, first of all, they're not going to believe you. Second, they're going to think you're crazy. And third, you have to be so convinced of yourself that if you leave this, that means that you're not anymore from this planet.